You've heard the term light year your entire life, but what if I told you that you've never actually understood what it means? Think about distance for a second. Real distance. The kind you deal with every day. The drive to work. A road trip across the country. Maybe a flight from New York to Los Angeles. About 2,500 miles, 5 hours in the air. Something you can picture, something you can feel. Your brain understands that. It can map it out. You know what it means to move through that space. Now go bigger. The entire circumference of Earth is about 25,000 miles. That sounds massive, but even that is something we've wrapped our heads around. People have traveled it. Planes circle it in less than 2 days. It's big, but it's still human. And that's the illusion. Because everything you've ever experienced, every distance you've ever known, exists inside a tiny bubble your brain was designed to handle. A very small bubble. Now step outside of it. The distance from Earth to the Moon is about 238,000 miles. Already, something starts to feel off. There are no roads, no landmarks, no sense of scale, just empty space stretching in every direction. And even at speeds faster than anything you've ever experienced, it still takes days to get there. That's when distance stops being something you feel and starts becoming something abstract. But here's where things really begin to break. Because the Moon is not far. Not even close. It's practically next door in cosmic terms. The real distances, the ones between planets, between stars, they don't just get bigger. They get so large that the units you rely on completely fall apart. Miles stop making sense. Numbers lose meaning. Your brain reaches a point where it simply cannot process what it's being told. And this is the problem. Not that space is big, but that your mind was never built to understand how big it really is. So scientists had to create a new way to measure it. Not in miles, not in kilometers, but in something far more unsettling. Something that doesn't just describe distance, but completely changes how you see reality itself. It's called a light year. And once you truly understand what that means, you don't just learn something new about space. You realize you've been thinking about the universe the wrong way your entire life. Let us slow down for a moment. Because this is where your intuition begins to slip without you even noticing. You have always understood distance as something you can travel, something that exists between two places at the same moment in time. When you drive across a city, both you and your destination exist right now. When you fly across the country, the place you are going to is already there, waiting for you in the same present you are experiencing. That is how your brain has been trained to think. Distance equals space. And space exists in the same moment. But space itself does not follow that rule once you leave Earth. When you look up at the sun, you are not seeing it as it is right now. The light you see left the sun about 8 minutes ago, traveling at 186,000 miles per second across 93 million miles of empty space just to reach your eyes. 8 minutes. That means if something changed on the sun, you would not know until 8 minutes later. Already, the present you think you are observing is slightly behind reality. Now extend that idea just a little further. The next closest star, Proxima Centauri, is about 4.2 light years away. Not miles. Not millions of miles. Light years. Which means the light you see from that star tonight began its journey over 4 years ago. For years. Before it even reached you. You are not seeing that star as it is. You are seeing it as it was. And this is where things begin to feel strange. Because distance is no longer just distance. It is time. The farther you look, the further back you see. Every point of light in the night sky is not just a place in space, but a moment in history. Some of those stars may not even exist anymore. Their light is still traveling, still crossing the darkness, still arriving here long after the source itself has changed or disappeared. And your brain resists this. It wants everything to exist now, all at once, in a single shared moment. But the universe does not work that way. There is no single present stretching across space. There is only information traveling, limited by speed, delayed by distance. So when you look out into the universe, you are not looking across space the way you thought. You are looking through layers of time, each one older than the last, each one further removed from what is actually happening right now. And that changes something fundamental, because it means the night sky is not a snapshot of reality. It is a mosaic of the past, stitched together by light that has been traveling for years, decades, centuries, or far longer, just to reach you in this exact moment. Now let that idea sink in. because it leads to something even more unsettling. If every point of light you see is a piece of the past, then the deeper you look into space, the further back in time you are actually seeing. This is not just a strange side effect. It is how the universe reveals itself. Imagine you could somehow step farther and farther away from Earth, moving out into the darkness. At first, you would still see our planet as it is now. Then, as you moved farther, you would begin to see Earth as it was seconds ago, then minutes ago, then hours ago. Keep going, and you would see yesterday, then years in the past, then centuries. Eventually, if you could travel far enough, you would see Earth before cities, before civilizations, before humans even existed. The light carrying those images would still be out there, moving through space, waiting to be seen. This means something profound. The universe is not just a place filled with objects. It is a record of everything that has ever happened, preserved in light, stretched across unimaginable distances. Every star, every galaxy, every faint glow in the distance is a message from a different time. And the farther away it is, the older that message becomes. This is where your understanding begins to shift again, because now distance is not just tied to time. It is time. When astronomers look at galaxies millions or billions of light years away, they are not seeing those galaxies as they are today. They are seeing them as they were millions or billions of years ago. They are looking back to a time when those galaxies were younger, when the universe itself was different. In a very real sense, telescopes are not just tools for looking far away. They are tools for looking back in time. And here is the part that quietly changes everything. There is no way to see the universe as it exists right now. Not all at once. Not even in principle. Because information cannot travel instantly. It is always delayed. Always in transit. Always arriving late. So the idea of a single, shared present across the universe is not something you can observe. It is something you assume. Something your brain fills in to make reality feel stable and continuous. But in truth, what you call the present is just a tiny local bubble around you, limited by how fast information can reach you. Everything beyond that is already the past. And that means when you look out into the night sky, you are not looking at a synchronized universe. You are looking at a scattered timeline, with every object existing in its own moment, separated from you not just by space, but by years, centuries, or far longer. And once you begin to see it that way, something subtle but irreversible happens. Space stops feeling like a place you could travel across, and starts feeling like a vast, layered history you are only ever able to glimpse in fragments. And yet, even after all of that, your mind is still holding on to one last assumption, something so basic you probably have not questioned it even once. You still think that if something is far enough away, you could eventually reach it. That distance is just a matter of time and speed. But this is where the illusion completely breaks. Because there is a limit. A hard, unbreakable limit built into the universe itself. Light, the fastest thing that exists, moves at 186,000 miles per second. Nothing can go faster. Not you. Not any spacecraft. Not even information. This is not a technological limitation. It is a rule of reality. And that changes everything. Because it means some parts of the universe are not just far away, they are unreachable in principle. Imagine a beam of light leaving a distant galaxy billions of light years away. It begins its journey across the darkness, traveling faster than anything else possibly could. And after billions of years, it finally reaches Earth, carrying with it an image of that galaxy from the distant past. But here is the catch. While that light was traveling toward us, the universe itself was expanding, stretching the distance between galaxies. In many cases, that expansion is happening so fast that even light cannot keep up. There are regions of space so distant that the light they emit right now will never reach us. Not in a billion years, not ever. That information is permanently cut off from us. This is not about patience or better technology. It is about a boundary built into the fabric of the universe. And this leads to something deeply counterintuitive. The observable universe, everything we can ever see, is not the entire universe. It is just the portion where light has had enough time to reach us since the beginning of everything. Beyond that boundary lies more space, more galaxies, more structure, but it is forever hidden, not because it is invisible, but because its light will never arrive. So when you look out into the night sky, you are not just looking into the past, You are looking at a limited slice of reality, defined by distance, time, and the speed of light. Everything you see is constrained by how far information can travel. Everything you do not see is not necessarily absent. It is simply beyond reach. And this is where the concept becomes almost impossible to fully accept, because it means the universe is not just larger than you thought. It is larger in a way you can never fully experience. There are parts of reality that exist, right now, but are completely disconnected from you, not by space alone, but by the fundamental rules of how information moves. And once you realize that, distance is no longer just something that separates places. It becomes something that defines what is knowable at all. At this point, something inside your understanding is starting to shift, but there is still one more layer that has not fully settled in yet. You have seen how distance becomes time, how light carries the past, and how there are limits to what can ever reach you. But now consider this from a different angle. Everything you have ever experienced, every moment of your life, has been confined to an incredibly small region of space. Not just small in size, but small in terms of what is actually accessible to you right now. Think about where you are standing. The light around you, the objects you see, the sounds you hear, all of it is happening within a tiny sphere, where information has had time to reach you almost instantly. This creates the illusion that reality is immediate, that everything exists together in the same moment. But step just slightly outside of that sphere, and that illusion begins to break down. Even within our own solar system, delays start to appear. Signals from spacecraft can take minutes or hours to reach Earth. Commands we send take just as long to arrive. Communication itself becomes stretched across time. And yet, this is still considered close. Now extend that outward again, beyond the planets, beyond the nearest stars, into the vast structure of galaxies. The Milky Way alone spans about 100,000 light-years. That means light itself takes 100,000 years just to cross from one side to the other. If there were a civilization on the opposite edge sending a signal toward us, it would take longer than all of recorded human history for that signal to arrive. And by the time it did, everything about both civilizations would likely have changed beyond recognition. This is where the idea of a shared reality starts to dissolve. Because events are not happening everywhere at once in a way you can access. They are scattered, separated by time delays so large that cause and effect lose their intuitive meaning across vast distances. What you think of as now becomes a local phenomenon, something that only truly applies to your immediate surroundings. Beyond that, the concept begins to stretch, blur, and eventually lose coherence altogether. And here is the subtle realization that follows. You are not just limited in where you can go. You are limited in what you can ever know. The universe is not hiding its secrets out of reach by chance. It is structured in a way where distance itself becomes a filter, a boundary that determines what information can arrive and what remains forever beyond your awareness. Every observation you make is delayed. Every image you see is incomplete. Every conclusion you draw is based on fragments of a reality that is constantly evolving beyond your ability to perceive it in full. And yet, your mind still tries to stitch it all together, to imagine a complete universe existing in perfect synchrony. But that picture, as comforting as it feels, is not something you have ever truly seen. It is something you have constructed, piece by piece. From signals that have been traveling across the darkness for years, centuries, or far longer, just to arrive here, now, in the narrow window of time you call the present. But even now, there is one more shift that has not fully landed yet, something deeper than distance, deeper than time, something that quietly sits underneath everything you have just understood. Because when scientists introduced the idea of measuring space using the travel of light, they did not just create a new unit. They revealed something about reality itself. Light is not just a convenient tool. It is the fastest possible way anything can move, the ultimate speed limit of the universe. Every piece of information, every image, every signal you have ever received is carried by it or something bound by the same rule. And that means your entire experience of reality is filtered through this single constraint. You do not see things as they are instantly. You see them only after light has had time to reach you. Even the person standing a few feet away from you is not being seen exactly as they are in this exact moment. The delay is tiny, almost meaningless on a human scale, but it exists. And as distances grow, that delay stretches, turning moments into minutes, minutes into years, years into millions of years. This is not something that happens occasionally. This is how reality always works. There is no direct, instantaneous connection between you and anything else in the universe. There is only information traveling, always in motion, always arriving late. And this leads to a realization that is easy to overlook. What you call seeing is actually receiving. You are not observing the present. You are collecting signals from the past and assembling them into something that feels immediate. Your brain smooths over the delay, creating the illusion of a continuous, shared moment. But that illusion begins to fall apart as soon as you think beyond your immediate surroundings. Because out there, across the vast distances of space, there is no single timeline you can access all at once. There is only a constant flow of delayed information, each piece arriving from a different point in time. And here is where it becomes almost impossible to fully grasp. If the speed of light is the maximum speed of information, then there is no way to ever break out of this system. No matter how advanced you become, no matter how far you travel, you will always be bound by this delay. You will always be looking at something that has already happened. The present, in a universal sense, is not something you can observe or reach. It is something that exists beyond your ability to access directly. And that changes the meaning of distance one final time. It is no longer just about how far things are, or how long it takes to get there. It is about how disconnected you are from the true state of the universe at any given moment. Every extra mile does not just add space. It adds delay. It pushes you further away from what is happening right now. And when you follow that idea all the way to its conclusion, you begin to see something unsettling but strangely beautiful. The universe is not a place where everything exists together in perfect synchrony. It is a vast, unfolding story, and you are only ever able to read it one delayed message at a time, never quite catching up to the moment it is actually being written. And now, there is one final piece that quietly connects everything you have been feeling but have not fully put into words yet. Because up to this point, it might still seem like all of this is just a limitation, a kind of barrier between you and the universe. But what if it is not a limitation at all? What if it is the actual structure of reality itself? Think about what it really means that every piece of information takes time to arrive. It means that space is not just a stage where events happen. Space is part of the process that shapes how those events are experienced. Distance does not just separate objects. It transforms them, stretching their presence across time before they can ever reach you. This is why light years are not just a clever unit of measurement. They are a reminder that space and time are not separate things. They are woven together in a way that your everyday experience never reveals. On Earth, everything feels immediate, connected, happening together. But that is only because the distances are so small that the delay is almost invisible. Out there, across the vast scales of the universe, that connection breaks apart. Events no longer share a common moment. They drift, each one unfolding on its own timeline, separated by the time it takes for light to travel between them. And this leads to a realization that is both subtle and profound. There is no universal clock ticking the same moment everywhere. There is no single version of now that stretches across the cosmos. Instead, every location, every star, every galaxy exists in its own version of the present, shaped by what information has reached it and what is not. Even you, standing here, are living in a version of now that is slightly different from everything around you, defined by the signals that have had time to arrive at your position in space. And when you follow that idea all the way through, something extraordinary happens. The universe stops feeling like a fixed place you are inside of, and starts feeling like a network of perspectives, each one limited, each one incomplete, each one separated by distance and delay. What you call reality becomes something local, something personal, something built from the specific slice of information you are able to receive. And beyond that slice, beyond what light has had time to deliver, there is always more. More events, more changes, more moments unfolding that you cannot yet see. Not because they are hidden, but because they are still on their way. And this is where the meaning of distance shifts one last time. It is no longer just about how far away something is. It is about how long it will take for reality itself to reach you. Every light year is not just space. It is waiting. It is delay. It is the gap between what is happening and what you are able to know. And once you begin to see distance that way, the universe no longer feels like something you can simply observe. It becomes something you are always catching up to, always slightly behind, always trying to understand from signals that have already traveled farther than you can truly imagine. And if you stay with that feeling just a little longer, something even more unsettling begins to emerge, because it is not just that you are always seeing the past. It is that the present itself becomes something you can never fully point to. Right now feels real to you, immediate, solid, happening all at once, but that sense of now only exists because everything around you is so close that the delays are almost zero. The moment you extend beyond that tiny human scale, the idea of a shared present starts to dissolve completely. Imagine two observers, separated by thousands of light years, each looking out into the universe. What one calls the present includes events that the other cannot see for thousands of years. What one experiences as now has not even happened yet from the perspective of the other. There is no contradiction here, because there is no universal agreement on what now actually is. It depends entirely on where you are and what information has had time to reach you. This is not just a philosophical idea. It is built into the structure of space and time itself. Every observer exists inside their own bubble of reality, defined by the signals that arrive at their location. And beyond that bubble, everything else exists in a kind of delayed state, not because it is frozen, but because its information has not yet reached you. This creates a universe where reality is not synchronized. It is fragmented, stretched, and layered in ways that your everyday experience hides from you. And here is where it becomes almost impossible to fully accept. If there is no shared present across the universe, then there is no single version of reality that exists all at once in a way you can access. What you perceive is always partial, always delayed, always shaped by where you are in space. Even if you could travel at incredible speeds, even if you could cross vast distances, you would still carry your own timeline with you, your own version of events defined by what you have been able to receive. You would never step into a universal now, because it does not exist in the way your intuition expects. And this leads to a quiet but profound shift in how you see everything. The universe is not a single unfolding moment that you are inside of. It is a vast collection of moments, all existing, all unfolding, but never fully aligning into one shared experience. You are always inside your own slice of it, always reconstructing reality from signals that arrive from different times, different distances, different histories. And once you truly begin to feel that, the night sky changes again. Those points of light are no longer just distant objects or echoes of the past. They are pieces of a reality that is not happening all at once, a reality where every direction you look is a different time, a different story, a different version of what is. And somewhere within all of that, you are standing in your own small window of now, surrounded by a universe that is never fully present, never fully visible, and never completely within reach. And when you step back and look at everything together, something becomes impossible to ignore. You started with a simple idea, something that sounded harmless, something you thought you already understood. Distance. Just space between 2 points. But what you have uncovered is something entirely different. Distance is not just space. It is delay. It is history. It is the reason you can never see reality as it truly is in this exact moment. Every direction you look is a different time. Every star is a message that began long before you ever existed. Every galaxy is a story that has been traveling across darkness for millions or billions of years just to reach you now. And even now is not really now. It is only the moment when that information finally arrives. This is the quiet shift that changes everything. You are not standing inside a universe that is fully visible and fully present. You are standing inside a narrow window of awareness, surrounded by signals that are always late, always incomplete, always arriving from a past you cannot escape. And beyond that window, there is more. Always more. More space, more events, more moments unfolding that you will never see as they happen. Not because they are hidden, but because they are too far away for their light to ever reach you in time. So when you look up at the night sky, you are not just observing the universe. You are receiving fragments of it, pieces of a much larger reality that you can never fully assemble. And yet, Your mind tries to complete the picture. It imagines a universe that exists all at once, synchronized, immediate, fully present. But that version of reality is something you have never actually experienced. It is something you have constructed to make sense of a world that does not behave the way you expect. And once you realize that, something subtle changes in how you see everything. Because the question is no longer how far away things are. The question becomes how far behind you are from what is actually happening. How much of reality is still on its way to you? How much has already changed before you even had the chance to see it? And that leads to a final thought that is difficult to let go of. If every observation you make is delayed, if every image you see is already in the past, then there is always a version of the universe that exists beyond your reach, unfolding right now in ways you cannot witness. A version that is more current, more complete, but forever inaccessible to you. And maybe that is the real meaning hidden behind everything you have just explored. Not that the universe is too big to measure, but that it is too vast to ever be fully experienced. And no matter how far you look, no matter how much you learn, you are always just a little too late to see it as it truly is.